Well, hey, those numbers are not good. Hello everybody, I am Tom and you are kind of watching me play Destiny. I haven't played Destiny in months, so you're not really watching me play Destiny, I'm just going to talk about it. I guess I'll have some random footage in the background. I've been playing PoE recently, I probably have some PoE footage, so that'll be up at the moment. I missed the launch of Destiny yesterday. And when I say I miss it, I mean I completely and utterly forgot that Destiny was launching yesterday. So the only reason I know now is because I saw in my subfeed, I'm still subscribed to a bunch of Destiny creators and things, and I saw Edge of Fate. I'm like, oh shit, it must have come out. And I looked it up and indeed it has come out. I have not touched Destiny since my last video, which was before the last dungeon came out. I haven't played the last dungeon even. That's how long ago I played Destiny. So if you look on my channel, the last Destiny video, that was the last time I played. I recorded that day, played, cracked the shits with having to repeat the same thing over and over again. Quit, haven't come back since. But why am I making this video today? I want to make some predictions. So the only thing that I've seen from Edge of Fate is the Steam player numbers, because I looked it up before sitting down to make this video. Because I wanted to make a prediction on how I think the game is going at the moment and how the actual launch of this expansion has gone. Obviously, not good. So for the record, those Steam numbers, under 100,000 players at peak. That's horrendous for an expansion release. The past 3 expansions have hit around 300,000, and the ones before that even, like they were still like 200, 250. 100,000 is worse than a lot of seasonal launches. That's really, really bad. And I'm wondering, this could just be because the end of the Light and Dark saga is over, people have just stopped playing. That's a possibility. Me knowing nothing about this expansion, I know literally nothing about the expansion. I have stopped paying attention to Destiny completely, but I want to make some predictions, and there's going to be 2 types of people watching this video. One, people who just hate Destiny and like get Destiny hate bonus or whatever. Cool, you're all welcome. 2 is the people who are playing the game and are ostensibly enjoying it, or at least still playing it at the very least. And for them is kind of the more interesting people I want to talk to, because I want to know how much of this I'm getting right. So I want to go over 4 pillars that Destiny really has, and they're noticeable in every DLC release because how good each of these pillars are individually, as well as how many of them are good, is how good the release generally is. So there's 4 in my mind. There's story, which is the most self-explanatory. It's how good the story is and how well the narrative is kind of strung together on the overarching story. I think for this release, they probably have more leeway here, simply because they don't have to string the narrative to the overarching story as much, because they're kind of starting a new overarching story. So they should have a lot more leeway here. Next, we have gameplay. So generally, gameplay is always good in Destiny. So the gunplay is always pretty good. The movement is always, well, I should say the gunplay is always excellent, let's be honest. And the movement is usually really good as well. Although I do think that they slow us down as much as they can all the time for some reason. Let me go faster. Let me go fast. I want to go fast. But I digress. That's a me problem, not a general gameplay problem. Gunplay, movement, always good in Destiny. However, there is other aspects to gameplay that are always a bit more controversial, let's say. And that's what the game actually has you doing while you're playing. For instance, you have the classic Destiny standing in the circle while a timer goes up, while you're killing things, picking up one thing, carrying it to another place. Next, we have the sandbox, which is how a lot of people kind of see this and gameplay kind of mixed together, but I kind of like to separate them a bit, because gameplay to me is more what you're doing and how it feels to do it, whereas sandbox is more in the nitty-gritty of, are the weapons good? Are the abilities good? Do they feel good together to use? Are the current really popular builds nerfed or buffed on any given release? All that kind of stuff. So that's the sandbox. And thirdly is the loot, which again kind of rolls into sandbox and gameplay, but it's more specific on, is there things for me to chase? i.e., are there really good weapons that I want that are new, therefore I go get them? How many exotics are being released? Do I want to go get all the exotics? And even beyond that, even if not everything you're releasing is good, there needs to be enough stuff there for the people who like to collect everything, because there's a pretty big contingent of people in Destiny who just want everything. That's a big problem with the vault space that a lot of people don't seem to understand. It's like Datto can never get his head around, why would you want to keep all these things? Most people want one, well, I won't say most people, there is a large contingent of people who, if they could, would collect one of every gun, whether or not the gun was good or not. Because that's just what they like doing. It's also worth noting that cosmetics and emblems and all that kind of stuff fall under this category as well. There needs to be stuff for people to chase so that they want to keep playing. So, Destiny pretty much never hits all 4 of those pillars really well. maybe Forsaken. I think Forsaken probably got the closest to hitting all 4. Generally, they hit 2. That is an average release. If they hit 2 of any of those pillars, they're usually pretty good. A good launch will hit 3, and a bad launch usually only hits 1. I can't think of a time they've missed on everything. Maybe Curse of Osiris, but I didn't start playing until Forsaken launched, so I can't speak perfectly, but everyone seems to hate that expansion. I didn't mind it, but I got it for free and played it later, so, you know, it's harder to judge. Destiny has 2 types of releases. They have their seasons and their expansions. I'm talking historically here. This layout seems to be changing quite a bit. Judging by those numbers, it's not for the better, but we'll see. And depending on the release type, people have different expectations. So if a season comes out, people don't have as big an expectation as they do when they're doing a full-on, like, yearly expansion. Which, among other things, has primarily to do with the fact that you're paying a different price differential for these, right? So if you're paying less, you're not going to expect as much. However, depending on the release, the pillars have kind of different weights. I feel like the big expansions, the story gets a much higher weight. And you also have the gameplay section is kind of bifurcated in between what you're doing during the campaign and what you're doing post-campaign. Because you can have a campaign that has really good gameplay during the campaign, but then as soon as you complete the campaign, you're doing the same thing over and over again, and it gets a bit repetitive and boring, and it's not quite there. Season, people don't really care much about the story. They do care that it has to be sufficient. When you're doing a season, the story has to be sufficient, but the gameplay is what people care about. That's what's going to get people in. And where Sandbox and Loot really shine is the retention in between big releases. If you want to keep people playing throughout the entire time, you have to have a good sandbox, and the loot needs to be there. So there needs to be things to chase, and you need to have fun while you're chasing them. So, moving on to my prediction. Based on the player numbers, my suspicion is that Edge of Fate, and this is based on nothing else. I haven't looked at a single review. I don't know whether people like it. I don't know whether people hate it. We will find out. If it is really good and people are really liking it and it just has low player numbers because of whatever reason, maybe I'll buy it and try it. I don't know. But for now, I don't think I'm going to be. But my suspicion is they hit 1, maybe 2 of those pillars. And for the record, I think they need to hit at least 3 of those pillars. This needs to be a banger release to try and bring people back into the game after the end of the Light and Darkness saga. This expansion had to be a baller fucking expansion so that people were willing to come back after they've quote unquote finished the story. They've been playing for 10 years. They have this big Light and Darkness saga. There was this big confrontation with the Witness. It's the end of the saga. And then they're like, okay, why am I coming back? This had to hit big to bring those numbers back. And seemingly, they haven't. I suspect that the story will probably hit. The reason I suspect that is because they have a lot more freedom to write in the story, because they don't have to link back to the Light Darkness saga. Everything has to have that overarching story, you know? They have freedom to start something new and write from the bottom up. I have a suspicion they're doing stuff about the 9, which would be interesting. As I said, I literally know nothing about this expansion. I do know that there was a Rite of the 9 event before the expansion release, though. I didn't play any of it, but I know it exists. So my assumption is you would kind of take the narrative and write around the 9, because they're probably the most interesting part of the lore, aside from kind of the Winnower and the Gardener and all the Light Darkness stuff. So that's my assumption, and they can probably write pretty damn good story around that. So I'm assuming the story is going to hit. What I saw of the gameplay, though, I don't know. Because the only thing I heard about was kind of the traversal mechanics they have in their new area, where you can, like, there's the Metroid ball or something I saw. That was advertised everywhere. Like, I saw a couple of trailers, and they had that all throughout the trailer as, like, the selling point, and it didn't seem like it would be fun. But, secondarily, that's the selling point. It doesn't feel like a selling point to me. Again, I wasn't watching a whole lot of Destiny stuff, so maybe there was more stuff, but I don't know. As for the sandbox and loot, I have no idea, because I do know that they were doing big changes to armor. However, I'm pretty sure that's free for everybody. So it's also hard to make the argument that people are going to buy this new expansion and play for the sandbox changes, when a lot of the really big sandbox changes are coming as a free update. You know what I mean? So they're adding a bunch of changes to armor, which is interesting. Whether or not that hits or not is going to be a 50-50 coin flip, I couldn't say, because who knows, right? Also, I suppose if the new armor sets are a hit, it means that the loot will be pretty good, I guess. So maybe they hit all 3 pillars, but as I said, on a big expansion, the gameplay and story tend to take a higher relevance than the sandbox and the loot. The sandbox and the loot are really good for keeping player retention. The issue is, ordinarily you do an expansion, you get 300,000 people on that slowly put it down to 100,000. This expansion got 99,000 people playing. What are you retaining, you know? I mean, let's not be clear, 100,000 people is still 100,000 people, it's not the end of the world. But when you're looking at Destiny launches previously and how they fall off, if we fall off with the same kind of percentages, there could be trouble. Anyway, that was just my kind of assessment and pseudo-rant on Destiny. I haven't touched it, haven't played it, haven't really looked at anything to do with it, but I'm interested to know whether or not my analysis is correct, and whether they've, like, hit those pillars in such a way that this is a average to bad release, and that is reflected in the numbers. Because there's a lot of people who maybe were looking at it and saying, oh, maybe I'll buy it, and then they've seen the numbers, and they've seen the people saying bad things, maybe? I actually don't know if people are saying good things or bad things, I'll be perfectly honest. But I suspect, probably good story, gameplay looked average at best, sandbox is a crapshoot, who knows, because of how much they changed. But again, the sandbox is free, so there's no real reason to buy the expansion if all you care about is sandbox changes. And loot, I have no idea. I don't know about any new exotics or anything, but I assume they have some new exotics to chase and stuff, so loot might be fine, I don't know. The point I'm making is, I think this is a middling to bad expansion, and that's my prediction based on nothing but the player numbers. So this could be a complete waste of a video, who knows? Let me know in the comments what you guys think, one way or the other. I'm kind of interested to know. I'll probably go and watch, now I've actually made this video, I will go and watch a couple of reviews and see what people are saying. But, I don't know, it's interesting to have a Destiny expansion not even break 100,000. For reference, there's a lot of seasons that have broken 100,000. Not looking good. Anyway, if you like the video, please like, subscribe, all that kind of jazz, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.